Hey everybody, welcome to the All Ambient Podcast. Glad that you are here. A quick little front-loaded note before we get into this episode. We get the chance today to hear from Anita Tatlow and Cynthia Bernard, who headed up a compilation album that was a collab between Echoes Blue and Cynthia's Cloud Collecting called Gentle Voices Volume 1, which features 20 amazing women artists in the ambient genre and the ambient adjacent genres. It's an incredible release. But in this episode, I erroneously make reference to the fact that this episode is going to air before the release comes out. And in fact, that is not true. At time of this episode airing, Gentle Voices Volume 1 is available to stream wherever you find your music. It is available right now. You don't have to pre-save it. You can listen to it. And a bonus that with these 20 amazing women in the ambient world, this episode is airing on International Women's Day. And Gentle Voices Volume 1 came out just 2 days prior, right in time for International Women's Day. Love the timing on that. Just figured I'd give you a little heads up when you hear me talking about pre-saving and it coming out later. That is not true. But what is true is that this is an incredible release. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's get right into the chance that I had to dig into this with Cynthia Bernard and Anita Tatlow, who co-led this incredible compilation release, Gentle Voices Volume 1. Hey, welcome to the All Ambient Podcast, everybody. We're so glad that you have joined us today. My name is Mike Graff. I make music as Dear Gravity, but I have the pleasure of being joined by two wonderful women in the ambient world with Cynthia Bernard of Marine Eyes and Anita Tatlow as one half of Salt of the Sound and a bunch of other projects. We have something really exciting to talk about today, but first off, just welcome, ladies. So glad that we're doing this together.
Yes, we've been looking forward to this. Thanks for having us, Mike. Thank you so much.
So great. It's going to, and both of you certainly are no stranger to the All Ambient Podcast. Even beyond that, you are no stranger to the ambient world and to everybody who has listening ears. They no doubt have heard all the wonderful work that you guys have done, which is great. And we have had some awesome conversation. But we get to go in just a little bit of a different direction, but definitely an exciting direction. For anyone who's, of course, read the title of the show, you know where this is going, but we get to celebrate the release of Gentle Voices Volume 1 that's coming out as of time of recording and time of release in just a short little while here, coming out on March 6th. Can you correct me if I'm wrong on that?
March 6th, so just in time for International Women's Day on
Perfect
March 8th.
Timing. I love that. That's so great. Gentle Voices Volume 1. What a super cool release. Thank you guys for sending over the press kit. I loved listening through it multiple times. I've got my little bits of information, but I want to turn it loose, and I can't wait to hear all the ingenuity, all the imagination, all the fun stories behind it. But how cool that, in summary, that Gentle Voices is this collaboration of 20 different women in the ambient world. You paired them up one by one. So each of the 10 tracks has two different female artists collaborating together. And the fact that you guys, if I'm not mistaken, there's over 15 different countries around the world represented through this. Like, this is a widespread thing that has been pulled together. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is it 15?
15 different countries at least. Yeah. So based on where kind of people are, some people came from like maybe Italy but now live in London, so you know, we've got all kinds of people on the, and we were going for every continent. We haven't quite managed that because Antarctica is out of our reach, but Gentle Voices Volume 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Antarctica, let's find an artist, reach out.
Absolutely. What a cool release. And I love how even with the singles, Cynthia, you have such an eye for photography and just the image that you capture. Really great job with the unique artwork for each one of the songs that came along. I just absolutely love how that all came together. I love that this is a thing. Forgive me for missing any details that might not have at the tip of my tongue. But first, let's just talk about this release. I know there's some history kind of leading up to it. And Cynthia, you've been doing some incredible things with cloud collecting and women in ambient for years now. And then, of course, Anita, with all of your hard work as an artist and also as part of the founding team of Echoes Blue Music, there's just a really cool opportunity for this project that you guys have to head out into the world. And so I would love to hear a little bit more about how it came together. So take it away. I don't even know where to begin, but you guys know a lot better than I do. Let's go.
Well, Anita, I know you and we've been in touch for a long time through anytime, Anita has a new song, I'm excited about adding it to Women of Ambient, and we've just been in connection through the community. So I think, what was it that started the conversation with this? I think it might have been after, I had done Remaining with Ben. And then we had been talking about doing something, I think for a little bit before we decided we should just chat and have a call, a Zoom call. And then we just started throwing ideas around. That's how it went, right, Anita?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were looking, because we loved working with you, and I think we were looking for ways. We were both kind of very open, being like, okay, how can we work together more intentionally? I think there's a space here, but we weren't quite sure what that was. But I think together with from our label side and your cloud collecting side, it just kind of evolved into, well, let's have a platform. Let's create a platform for women in the ambient space, because there are so many, and you know this. And Cynthia is really an oracle. She knows, and she's discovering more and more artists all the time. But let's create a platform for women, that lifts up women, that celebrates women, and I think part of it is because there are so many women who are in the ambient adjacent spaces who are creating such good music. But women typically have been very underrated in the ambient space, and there's not so many of us, and there's not so many. I mean, I can recall that I've been on several compilations and been a real minority in terms of, there's lots of men and there's lots of people doing it, and that's great.
Sure,
but when you hear the music that a lot of people are producing that don't necessarily get the traction and don't necessarily have the numbers, it was just a no-brainer for us that we needed to do something about it.
Yeah, no, to go along with what you said, that's what brought me to doing the project in the first place. So a lot happened in 2021. So that was the beginning of Marine Eyes, but that was also the beginning of Women of Ambient. And that happened in the same month. And I just had been telling people, I've been making ambient music. And most people's response was, not a lot of women do that. And I just said, I don't really agree with that. I know so many women artists out there. And so I just started compiling this list and putting together some songs. And I didn't intend for it initially to be something that I did every month. And then once I saw how much people responded and felt so excited to see the sheer amount of women artists on one list, I just said, I'm going to keep going, and I think this is a really important thing to continue with. And so just to show, and I've said it before and I'll continue to say it, I've never once run out of finding an artist that blows my mind every single month.
Ma'am.
And I am so invigorated by it. I just feel like there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of women artists out there who deserve to be heard. It's just been a beautiful process to now, with the newsletter, with Cloud Collecting, to have artists reaching out to me and sharing their music. And I just feel really grateful that I can do this. And so coming together for this project, I've had this dream for a while to have a compilation that's a yearly thing. And it just felt so wonderful to, start the conversation with Anita, and that we were both just as excited about it. And just felt so right to come together with another woman to be able to bring this together. And like I said, we'll never run out of more people, amazing artists to include. And it's just been such a special thing to see it reach this place where it's women artists collaborating with women artists and being so open to that. So many of the artists didn't know each other before. And we're so willing to come together and work together, and created such beautiful music that it just shows how much this community does matter. Like, us women coming together does matter, and how open-hearted we all were to join in on this. It's just been such a beautiful experience.
I love that. My goodness. And there really is a strength, a community strength that begins and continues to go on when something like this begins to take hold. And again, it's titled Gentle Voices Volume 1. I can't wait for Volume 2, for Volume 3. Volume 1 is incredible. We're celebrating the release of something absolutely incredible. But yeah, everything that you guys said, I think to watch what this becomes and to have that incredible community of women in ambient grow and be strengthened release after release, year after year. And hopefully this is perhaps a cornerstone in the story of it, but maybe more of a catalyst than in fact the whole story. And who knows where it's going to go from here. So I absolutely love that. And yeah, I'm really excited about this. Cynthia, you hit on a question that I had. I just wanted to backpedal a little bit and for us to make sure that we understood. I think most people who follow the All Ambient podcast are aware of what Echoes Blue Music has done over the last handful of years and all that. But maybe a slightly smaller section are fully up to speed on cloud collecting and everything that you've been doing in that. And you shared quite a bit and sort of the origin story of that. But Gentle Voices, is this the first compilation of women in ambient that you've been a part of, period? I know that with Echoes Blue, there's a cool platform that hopefully we're able to see some really unique traction out of this. But tell me about kind of what led up to this. Is this number one, or were there perhaps other things that were attempted before this? Or yeah, I'm always curious about the journey.
In 2022, I did a compilation called Healing Together, which was with Past Inside the Present. And that was featuring 23 women artists. And it was a mental health benefit compilation. Each artist got a prompt to write a song to help those going through mental health struggles know that they're not alone. And that was the prompt that they were given.
It's a great prompt.
And it was amazing to see all the different, songs that came from that. So that was another compilation I did, but that was before cloud collecting. That was after I was doing Women of Ambient, the mix series each month, but that was prior to cloud collecting turning into a newsletter. And then it's kind of been morphing, into, it felt more like the landing space for the community. And then, so this is truly the first cloud collecting release. I've been putting out self-releases under cloud collecting for myself, but I feel like this is the first official marking of that as, this would be cloud collecting one.
Yeah.
For
I love it.
The community. And I think I'll continue to have cloud collecting with solo releases of mine. And then we're hopeful to expand and do more with that together and separately. There's so many beautiful things up ahead. So, yeah.
The new era. It's great.
The new era.
It's great. So tell me a little bit about the process. 20 incredible artists, including the two of you, of course, but along with 18 other lovely artists from all corners of the globe. And I love, it always makes me smile when you dig into an ambient compilation and you are struck once again with just how unique and wide the genre can span artistically. Like I think that was just one of the first things that really settled. It was just like, man, I love that you're never done exploring new territory in the genre, really. And I know I'm wildly biased in that because I listen to a ton of it, I make a ton of it, but I think it's true. I think that there is such a diverse approach to the songs that came together, and there were some really nice musical surprises along the way through the whole release. Tell me a little bit about the artists who kind of came together. Was the pairing of the artists kind of a random, like, hey, why don't you two talk to each other? Or was there a little bit more intentionality to that? Maybe some of the theming of the whole project, if everyone was allowed to kind of just let loose and then the theme kind of came together on the backside, or if there was more of a specific prompt, kind of like with the Past Inside the Present mental health compilation. Or I love getting into the nitty gritty on this.
So I think Gentle Voices was the theme that we came up with, and that was what was given to the artists as a prompt. And what's brilliant about the artists is across the 20 different people, there are people who would be primarily vocalists. There are people who are producers. There are people who are more in the electronic space. There's someone who works as a pianist. There's more composers. So you've got this whole range of different styles across the ambient adjacent sphere. Yeah. And it was just incredible to kind of see where they then took the prompt in their own genre, but then also being paired with somebody who, okay, maybe you are a pianist, but you're paired with this person who's a strings composer. Maybe you are both vocalists. Maybe we paired somebody with a vocalist who's somebody who isn't. So we were thinking about all of those things and what might work well, kind of really drawing on Cynthia had known quite a lot of these people before as well, but just seeing where it would go and where it would take them. It was like opening a storybook.
Very much so. And just talk about exciting, getting the songs in the email inbox is probably one of the most exciting things ever, just to get to have this sent out and then hear what everyone created, which I think every song has its own unique place on the compilation. And that's exactly what we were hoping for. And yeah, we're just so happy with how it turned out. And like I said, the willingness and open-heartedness of everyone to come together to collaborate with many of the artists that were paired together having not known each other before.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
That's so great. I can already foresee what a problem to have. The issue of the endless supply of these incredible women in ambient, and yet you have to decide on some number to limit the release to. And then there's the question of, you did such a great job on the first one, but then we have these other people who want. I can only imagine how notoriously difficult it's going to be to figure out who and what is coming next. But at the same time, I love that this is just the beginning of this project, and maybe there's just a mountain of different releases that you guys start dreaming up, or I don't know. I get excited about the concept that you two are bringing to life, and just the devil's advocate in me is like, can there be more? Like is you know what I mean? And just because I think it's such a great opportunity for everyone who wants to be a part of it. And the results were just beautiful. So yeah, you guys just did such a great job.
And I would also say that not only did we have women working with women across the project, and Cynthia did the artwork, but then we also found a woman mastering engineer, Emily Magpie Mastering. And
Amazing.
She did all the mastering, and I was back and forwards with her. Yeah.
Wow.
So she's done some great work in different genres. I don't think she'd done loads in the ambient genre before. So we sent her some pieces as a kind of test case, and she just, knocked it out of the park, as you would say, over in the US. But we're just, blown away. But we were just, that was like the final piece for us of the puzzle of being like, we want this from start to finish to be a project by women, for everybody. But having that as the whole process has been really great.
And the cohesiveness that she brought to the masters, when you're doing a compilation like that, to have it come together was, right out the gate. She did such an amazing job. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the artwork a little bit more. Cynthia, you are an incredible visual artist, not just a musical artist. And I know photography is deep in your blood, and I still vividly remember the last time we were talking, and I love when any art of any medium, but when any artist, you can just hear the fascination and the wonder in their voice when they're like, I literally get to do this. I literally get to explore. And it was just so refreshing and such a joy to hear that. So cut to, of course, for you to be able to have a hand in the artwork for this incredible release. I want to hear about that concept and about what you were doing. I read a little bit about it, but I would love to just hear from you what that started out as and what it evolved into. And it really turned out very, very nice.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So as you both know, I love using little light bending tools in my photography. And I had this idea going with one of my prisms and was starting, as my face is on the ground a lot with grass and all of the nature things, I started seeing the reflections in one of the prisms and started just exploring that idea. And this was right around the same time that the compilation was beginning, that this idea came to me, which feels so beautiful too. And so, all of the photos are reflections. And I went to many different nature places and started capturing all these different ideas. And we had a few ideas going, but I always felt like this was my favorite. And then, I kept on thinking of the soft edges, because all of the photos, with the way that I did the focusing and everything, they just have these soft edges. And that just, as we started landing on the idea, we were going gentle voices, it just felt like that style really fit what we were going for. And it was really fun to go to all these different nature places. So I went to the mountains, I went to the beach, I went to local fields and parks, and I just was really, because it was reflections, what you see is really unedited photos, just focused. I was going for different color palettes because that we wanted to have each song have its own stamp. And so it was really fun to think of, what colors, what reflections, what nature locations, and how that infused into each picture. And then once we received all the songs, it was really fun for us to think about which of the images went with the tracks. And sometimes that lended to the title of the song. So the Yolanda, Moletta, and Birds of Passage, it was great to make that linked with mountains with the title. And there were these little cues that came in through the titles as well. So with Freya and Alana's song with the reference to rain, that picture was from a rainy day. And that is actually taken on kind of a little puddle. I put the little prism in the puddle. And so that was really cool too, because that felt like these little puzzle pieces coming together of where the photos began, and how the nature is such a theme throughout ambient that it tied together. And that was really fun for Anita and I to talk about, this one looks like it goes with that. And so to have that be a collaborative process together was great too.
Forgive me if I've already said something like this when you and I were talking last time, Cynthia, but there really is something about intentionality at every stop. And I love how for the two of you to be guiding this compilation project. So you're engaging with, 20 artists total on this, but for you to really set the temperature of like what we're paying attention to, what is important, what kind of story, what kind of arc is being woven here. And when you're thinking about every creative detail and what goes, because, you could just, I like this and I'll slap this on that and I'll slap this on that. It's not as though one could not release it in that form, but I always am taken aback in the best way of just that extra level of intentionality and thought and how it all ties together. And so to be a fly on the wall in this group of 20, wonderful women of ambient who are getting to be a part of the process in the way that Cynthia and Anita have guided it, I can only imagine that just strengthens everybody. And you guys are rubbing off on them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. For you to be a leader amongst leaders and to really help bring those to life in a kind of a unique way is something that I get excited about for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think bringing the human element in, this wasn't stock images. Yes. This wasn't, because we have Cynthia, but it wasn't stock images. It wasn't AI. And so to bring all of those, with this collaborative process, and with the artwork and with all of it, there's no space for AI in there, because you have to communicate with another human. It's not you on your own. I mean, you could resort to AI, anybody can, but it just brings the story back. And I think that's so important again and again in this kind of AI world that we're living in, that we bring the humanity and we bring the humanness into it again.
Yep.
Completely.
That's what people care about. Yeah.
And yet there is a difference. There really is. The intentionality is so important. And that's something that brought Anita and I together with this as well. So, and keep going back to it, but the openness of the artists to collaborate together, and then trust in the process with the artwork. And everyone responded really well. And it just felt really seamless, and everybody coming together in that way.
So great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put both of you on the spot just a little bit. You have to pull your own song out of the running, but I would love to hear, and this is no way a downvote to any other song on the album, because they're all incredible. But I'm going to put you guys on the spot, and for each of you to share a moment or a song or something on the album that isn't your song that you, and I know, Cynthia, you already shared little bits and pieces of a couple things, but a moment on the album that just really resonated with you, something you're like, oh, that is so beautiful, or just even knowing a little bit of like the story of the two people and how they were talking amongst each other or whatever. What's one moment for each of you that kind of jumps out? I've even got one myself. Again, coming from a little bit of a removed perspective, I wasn't anywhere involved in the creation of any of it, but getting to listen through it all, there were some really sweet moments that jumped out at me. But yeah, you get to pick one, but you don't get to pick your own song. So there we go. You've got something to say about every one of them. But
of course, yeah.
I'd just love to hear a couple stories of what's jumping out at you.
Well, I think it's really hard to pick one, because when you were saying,
sure.
even as you were saying it, I was like, oh, I could pick this one. I could pick this one.
Yeah.
When we were choosing the order of the songs, we were kind of bouncing around different ideas, and then we would listen to it on headphones and come back and figure it out. It took us a while. I think that, took at least a couple of weeks for us to figure that out. But, the strength of all of the songs. But we started with Liam and Applefish, who is Nick Davis. And that was the one I was going to talk about because I love it. I think it's such a strong start. And then I was going to talk about the last track because it's kind of in two parts. And so actually the listeners will have to go and listen to the whole thing now because they have to listen from start to finish.
Yes.
But the one I'm going to say is...
It's the way it was meant to be listened to, folks.
Yep.
Yes,
That's
it was.
the way it was meant to be listened to.
Drum and Lace and Afia collaborated and created a song called Resin. And we also asked the artists to send us the inspiration that they had, the story behind it, beyond just gentle voices, and also their process and what they used, because it's always just amazing to hear kind of, okay, where did people go with this and what did they use? But the story, and I have to have it here because I have to get this right, they called it resin because resin is created by a tree to protect and heal the plant. And the role of bonding and healing is often the role of the matriarch. And so they used this, the vocals were used in this arrangement to act like the glue, like the resin, between soft synth layers to complement the stronger, starker moments, and the idea that it would mirror the strength of a tree. And going back to this idea of stories, I love that. I love that they thought about this project, thought about what does it represent, and then took the idea of resin as the matriarch. And that's where their song was birthed from.
Man.
We were beyond excited to have them paired together and then to have the depth of the story and everything come back. Yep, I agree. That's amazing.
With that story, are you releasing those stories? Is that going to be part of anything that gets rolled out to the world? Even if you're still deciding on how you're going to do all that?
Yeah, I'm still thinking about that, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in there and about people's processes and things and what they've used and how they've gone about it, which maybe needs to be shared. So Cynthia and I probably need another call to talk about all of this stuff.
Yeah, that would be cool. I always love behind the scenes, that talk about going to intention, because like hearing where the intention comes from is the most human of all, so I think we should talk about that and think about sharing for sure. And just make sure everyone's comfortable with that, of course.
All right, Cynthia, your turn.
Well, yeah, this is hard.
I know it's tough.
I know you said it would be, but
if you have to pick 2 or 4, I mean, go right ahead. We can talk about every track if you guys want to, because they're all great.
I've been a big fan of both Dream Crease and Aisha Vaughn for quite a while. And I know Dream Crease. I know Marina from the LA ambient scene. And, I just really felt like they're two fairies out in the world. And I kept thinking like this collaboration, like of even before this project, I was like, how cool would a Dream Crease and Aisha Vaughn collaboration be? And to hear what they came back with, it really blew me away because it was different than maybe I had, it just like there's a lot of surprises that came from this. And so it just was magical in a different way. And I am really excited about what they did. And another one, Birds of Passage and Yolanda Maleta, I mentioned that before, but their Mountain Ascent at Dusk. It's just such a journey of a song. And I mean, I could say something about all of them as we've mentioned. I mean, really, every song has its gorgeous place on the compilation.
Yeah.
And I've listened to the whole thing through many, many times, like while winding down at night and journaling. But yeah, there's a magic in each one. So, I mean, we really could go down the list. But yeah, I think that just, with bringing up the Aisha and Dream Crease, it's because I think that might have been like an early seed for me before even knowing that the project was a thing, of going, wow, how cool would it be to have these two artists work together? And that was, like I said, well before this was in place. And so I think that song represents the possibility. You can have an idea and you can dream it and it comes true. And that is, that times 9 other songs, and here we are. And so it's just incredibly amazing to see how it all came together.
Very much so. I love that. The Aisha Vaughn and Dream Crease song, that was the one that kind of jumped out at me as like, that's a dark horse favorite for sure. I love hearing some of the context. Like, I think those two should, let's just see what happens when they play together, and we'll go from there. There were some, I mean, I'm always a sucker for like the melancholy side of this whole thing. Like major keys are fun and all that, but like when something just gets a little like moody, I'm all in. Let's go. And there were some layers and some depth in some of the low end stuff. It was just like, oh, you did that. And then there were, we got to get people listening to this thing. So I'm not going to give it all away, but there were some wonderful little surprises along the way. They caught me by surprise. But again, I should probably go listen through another time. But that was the one that kind of jumped out at me. Is like, I would for sure listen to a full like collection of like, these guys were just going to go for it for a half hour, an hour, and they had a handful of songs. That was like, this could be a fun one. But
Lacey, so Inquiry and Karen Voigt, they have mentioned in Bandcamp listening parties before about doing something together. And so it was like, well, we have a very perfect opportunity here to make this happen. So that was really an exciting thing too, because I've heard them, in those wonderful Bandcamp listening parties talking about that. And so they finally had, that chance to do so. And I know that they both were so excited, like, we actually get to do this now. And so for us, we're just blown away by that song. And they were meant to do something together for sure.
Yes. And I think we should also do a shout out to Froggy, who goes by
Definitely.
Froggy, but she jumped in late into the project because we had somebody who had to pull out because of personal family reasons, which left us without an even number. And she, without hesitation, was just so happy to join in. She's joining some other Echoes Blue releases in the future as well. But I was just like, wow, the openness. And we were really open. We said, hey, we had someone who pulled out. We know that you're a really strong producer. Can you work with Rianne? So Rianne is a friend of mine here in Hong Kong, and she is an incredible vocalist. She does a lot of singer-songwriter stuff, and she's done some stuff before in the ambient scene on Echoes Blue as well.
Yeah.
But we just thought, okay, this will work really, really well. And they were so quick to turn it round.
Oh my gosh, wow. I think it was a few days.
She's like,
and it was, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes. So, shout out to Frog.
When you're cooking, you're cooking,
Well, Froggy's, she's an amazing producer. I've spent some time with her this past January, and I got to see her in producer mode. And I was like, yep, I can see why this turnaround happened in a few days. She's so amazing.
Awesome.
So that even came together, right when we needed it, which was so special. And that song is gorgeous. Yeah.
And we do have a list that has already started for Gentle Voices Volume 2 of people who couldn't commit this time around, or other projects were kind of on the horizon for them. So we know that Volume 2 is already in the works. We haven't paired anybody or got the final artist lineup yet, but there's been so much positive energy around this, which is just so encouraging, I think, as an artist in the ambient space, as a woman artist in the ambient space, that we're all here and we're cheering each other on.
Yeah.
Is just what it should be and what it is.
Absolutely.
Completely.
Are we sure that an annual release is enough? Do you guys need to pop out a couple a year? Are we? I'm not the one. That's really easy for me to say because I have no responsibility in it whatsoever. You guys are putting in mountains of hard work, and I can only imagine how much that went on that we haven't talked about, and all the intricacies of every detail. That being said, clearly, anyone who's watching or listening can hear the passion in both of you, and to know that like you guys are just getting started on this is got to be one of the most exciting things about it, that it's like you've discovered it and it is beautiful in volume 1 form, but for there to be almost more excitement about the fact that the world now exists instead of like again, volume 1, plenty to be excited about, but the fact that Gentle Voices is a thing, I think, is the real champion of this whole thing, and that this is I cannot wait to see what comes of all of this, and I know the future is bright for sure. So this episode is headed out to the world just a little bit before the release, but make sure that you follow the link and hit the pre-save on whatever platform you are listening to your music on. We would absolutely love it if you went and streamed this a bazillion times, not just because that's a great thing to do, but you will get to hear 20 incredible women in the ambient world doing their thing together, paired up, collaborating, and you will not want to miss a single second of it. It's just such a great concept. I'm so glad that the hard work went into bringing it to life. Anita, Cynthia, you two are just forces, and thank you for taking a little bit of that force that you throw at everything that you do and aiming it towards yet another incredible project that is now just, I'm so glad that it is a thing. So thank you for bringing Gentle Voices Volume 1 to life. Indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us on the All Ambient podcast. This is about as shameless of a plug as it gets, but it really does help for those of you who are watching to give us a rating if you're on any podcast platform like Apple or Spotify or anything like that. On YouTube, we would love a follow, a subscribe, a like, all that fun stuff. And please leave a comment, a review, whatever is applicable to the right place that you're finding this. It really does go a long way. You don't have to make anything up by any means, but if there's some value in this podcast for you, we'd love to hear about it. We, as the All Ambient family, would love to meet you. I know it does my heart good, as well as everybody else who's involved at All Ambient. So please do so. Come back and join us next week. We got another great episode coming your way. And until then, here's hoping that this music and the hearts behind it make your day and your life that much better. Thanks.